We gotta, for example, why in God's name don't we teach history in history classes? A black man invented the light bulb, not a white guy named Edison. Okay? We got to give people facts. Teach them what's out there. Just
what is he talking about?
And the concluding comment I'll make is,
do you know what he's talking about?
There's a lot of folks who thought that, well, the president's made great strides with his law and order strides here. He hasn't. Not at all. No, I'm not serious. I'm being. That's my wife, Jill. Hey, Jill. I'm Jill's husband, actually.
Yeah, Trump 2020.
Okay, can I get a day's rest? Is this election over with yet? Are we done lying to people? You hear it on the news all the time about people lying, fake news. That's my face. I'm here to tell you. It's not true. Look at that. People, stop using me for your propaganda, for your agenda. I'm not here for that. I don't know what Trump said, but I'm sure he didn't call me a loser. I didn't hear him call me a loser. So this has got to stop. Stop using my image. Fox News, call me, somebody. Let's get this out there on a bigger platform so people would know not to use me, not to put a face to whatever this is they think he said. It's ridiculous. Let's stop the shit. Let's move on. I'm not part of all this. Well, I guess I kind of am. Hey.
Yeah, David Jackson, USA Today. My question is about the Durham report, which you have talked about recently. You said, let's see what happens. Now, you've accused people of committing crimes against you during the Russian investigation.
Yeah, sure. They spied on my campaign. That's right. They spied on my campaign. And if they were Democrats, they would have been in jail 2 years ago. They would have been in jail. Literally, if this side were the Democrat side, they would have been in jail 2 years ago for 50-year terms for treason and other things.
My question is, do you want the Justice Department to indict people over this?
I'm not going to say that. I have to see the report. I haven't seen it. I don't know if that was a good thing, smart thing. I don't know. But nobody can complain about it. I have every right to have been very much involved. And maybe someday I'll get involved in it. They spied on my campaign, and that includes Biden and Obama. They spied on my campaign trying to defeat me. They wrote up a fake dossier that has proven to be totally fake, written by Christopher Steele, paid for by Hillary Clinton and the Democrats, and they used that illegally in the FISA courts. If we did what they did, you would have many people in jail right now, and you have, other than the one agent that admitted his guilt, that he forged documents, we don't have that yet, but the report hasn't been issued yet. Let's see what happens. But let me just say something. President Obama and Biden, Sleepy Joe, he knew everything that was happening. They were spying on my campaign and they got caught. Now let's see what happens. But if this were the opposite way, people would have been jailed. They would have been in jail already for a period of at least, it would have started 2 years ago, and it would have been for 50 years for treason. Because you can't do that. That's never, and nothing like that's ever happened before. Then they created, at tremendous expense, the money they paid is tremendous. I'm sure you know the money that was paid, millions of dollars. They created a fake dossier, proven to be now fake everywhere, and they used it in the FISA courts. That's a crime. So far, I haven't seen anybody have a problem, but the report hasn't been issued yet. Let's see what happens with the Durham report. But this started at Obama. And some people would say, and some people, well, but he was the president, like, let's leave him alone. If it were me, they wouldn't be leaving me alone, I can tell you. It's a totally double standard, and it's a disgrace. And if I were a Republican senator, and if I were a Republican congressman, and we have some great ones, but we have a lot of them that don't fight the way that the other side fights. We have much better policy. We have much better things going for us, like borders and walls and immigration and no sanctuary cities, and they have a lot of bad stuff going. But they're dirty fighters. And the dirtiest fight of all is the issuance of 80 million ballots, unrequested. They're not requested. From global corporations that got rich by making American workers poor. His son, where's Hunter? Where's Hunter? I call him Where's Hunter. Walked away with $1.5 billion to manage, even though he never did that before. He walked away with a fortune from Ukraine, from China, and from other countries. Between his son and his brother, you ought to read the statements, and the press doesn't pick that up. If I ever did that, it would be hell, even worse than it's been, okay? Even worse than it's been. What he's done is so incredible. I won't give them the $1 billion, he says. I won't give them unless they get rid of that prosecutor. And then, voila, they got rid of the prosecutor. And the press doesn't even want to talk about it. You talk about quid pro quo. With me, there was none. With him, he's right on tape, and you don't want to cover it. You should be ashamed of yourselves.
So they're undermining the confidence in the exact vaccine that they're going to be distributing if they win the election, which they won't, for a whole host of reasons. If this is such a bad vaccine, why is China trying to steal it? Why is Wall Street going berserk over any company associated with it? Why are blue state governors lining up distribution systems right now to get it going after phase 3 trials are over? It doesn't make any sense. Kamala Harris has been caught flat-footed on this entire thing. She's only done one thing with the coronavirus. She's sponsored legislation to say that it was a racial slur to call it the Chinese virus. That's Chinese propaganda. And then she also praised the WHO. Also Chinese propaganda. That's been her effort to help this whole thing. And why is Biden wearing a mask when he's 12 feet away from people speaking into the camera? I'm voting against that ticket just because he looks goofy like that.
Michele Malkin joins us, best-selling author, syndicated columnist, and host of a soon-to-be named show on Newsmax. Michele, actually, does that show have a name yet?
I think we want to do a big reveal, so I will. I'll plead the fifth on that for now, Greg. Right. You'll be the first to know. You'll get the scoop.
It could be. We'll call it Michele Malkin Reports. But look, you heard Sergeant Mullins there, and amid this tumult, there are actually politicians standing up and saying we should defund the police department right now. From L.A., Minneapolis. I mean, this is serious. They're saying it with a straight face. This movement is taking off. Much to my frustration, and I'm sure yours.
Oh, yes. And for Americans who are aware of the history of far-left anti-cop agitation, this is not new, but it is escalating, I think, to an extent that we haven't seen since the late 60s and 70s. And if you think about the New York Police Department itself, of course, it has been targeted many times over the years. And for younger viewers, of course, they'll at least recall that during the Obama years, so many cities were lit up in flames, and the chants that we heard, the vile chants from Antifa and extremists of Black Lives Matter, that cops are pigs, that they should be fried up like bacon, definitely harkened back to the 60s and 70s. So we're talking about a nearly 4-decade-long history of a war on the police. And I think another thing that bears repeating and reminding Americans about as well, Greg, is that many of these groups ally together, and it's a very parallel. So now you have Antifa and Black Lives Matter. And in the 60s and 70s, targeting and assassinating, of course, police officers from New York to San Francisco, coast to coast, were the Weather Underground, the Black Liberation Army, and the Black Panthers. There's a long intellectual history of this movement of dismantling police departments. And now the fuel has been poured on the fire with everything that's happened since the George Floyd incident. And so they are exploiting a crisis, Greg. I mean, in a way, you've got to give credit to the left. They've always been focused, and they always leverage and exploit these types of opportunities. And look, LA's already done it, right? They're slashing their police department budget as some sort of sop to these agitators and looters, thinking that this is somehow going to appease them, but you cannot and you can never appease the unappeasable.
I was really surprised to see Eric Garcetti, who did not strike me as a total lunatic, talk about slashing $250 million for his own police department. That was kind of, quite frankly, a little bit scary. By the way, a lot of companies out there, an interesting piece in Medium, which is this interesting kind of website forum for thought. Many companies, 250, many mainstream companies like from Burger King to Amazon are at least putting out supportive statements of groups like Antifa, Black Lives Matter. Some of that I understand. Some of that I think, quite frankly, has gone way too far, and they're just trying to inoculate themselves from future trouble. What do you think's happening here?
Oh, I think you're absolutely right, Greg. There is an attempt to sort of buy immunity by kneeling figuratively, metaphorically, and in some cases literally to these agitation forces, to the forces that are sabotaging law and order. Everybody in the Fortune 500 world has issued some sort of statement. I don't know if you check your email, Greg, like I did this week. Every company that I've bought anything from online or done business with, even locally, is rushing out to put out some statement about anti-racism, buying into the foundational lies that have led to the Michael Brown incident and Trayvon Martin and, everything that Al Sharpton is responsible for going back decades. And I think it's important for consumers to be aware of these kinds of things. So Ashley Ray Goldenberg, who is a great young, bright researcher, put this handy list together so that if people want to vote with their pocketbooks, they should look at this list and not do business with businesses that are out to destroy and cancel America.
She's got a silver wallet and a pretty little lifestyle mess. Call her if you want it. She's always selling everything she gets. She's going all night, yeah, into the day. When she turns around, it gets taken away. 'Cause she's got a little habit and it ain't going away. All she ever wanted was a good time in her life. Baby, if you wanna ride, you gotta pay the price. Living like a gypsy, everybody's always in and out. She never liked to worry what anybody's talking about. She's going all night and into the day. When she turns around, it gets taken away. Yeah, she's got a nasty habit and it ain't going away. All she ever wanted was a good time in her mind. Baby, if you wanna ride, you gotta pay the price. I said, all she ever wanted was a good time in her life. Baby, if you wanna ride, you gotta pay the price. If you wanna ride, you gotta pay the price. If you wanna ride, yeah. All she ever wanted was a good time in her mind. Baby, if you wanna ride, you gotta pay the price. I said, all she ever wanted was a good time in her life. Baby, if you wanna ride, you gotta pay the price. If you wanna ride, you gotta pay the price. If you wanna ride, yeah.
One of the things that I think we and other media need to start doing is preparing the American people that there's nothing illegitimate about this election taking additional days or even weeks to make sure that all of the votes are counted. In fact, that might be important to make sure that this is a legitimate and fair election. So we're going to do a bunch of different messaging around that just to make sure that people know that that's normal. So if one of the candidates in any of the races claims victory before there's a consensus result, then we're going to add some informational context to that post directly, saying that there's no consensus result yet. I think that this is important because there is, unfortunately, I think, a heightened risk of civil unrest in the period, between voting and a result being called or after that. And I just think that we need to be doing everything that we can to reduce the chances of violence or civil unrest in the wake of this election.
If that were to happen, would Facebook be blamed in part?
Well, I can't speak to what other people would do, but I think we're trying to make sure that we do our part to make sure that that none of this is organized on Facebook. We want to make sure that none of that stuff is happening on our services. But the country is very charged right now, so I think regardless of what we do, there's some chance that this happens across the country. I just want to make sure that we do our part to not contribute to it.
So, all of last week, I've been warning you, I'm just trying to do a public service. I promise you, on my word, on my credibility, on everything that matters to me, I'm not trying to unnecessarily scare you. I was traveling this weekend to a different place, and when I was traveling, a couple of people came up to me in a restaurant, asked me some stuff, and to those people, they watch my show, they know me, who are watching now. Did I not tell you the same thing I'm telling my audience now? This coming coup the Democrats are planning in front of our eyes is a really, really big deal. Coming coup, that sounds like a conspiracy theory. It's not a conspiracy theory. I'm just using the Democrats' own words. Folks, they are legitimately in front of your eyes talking about a coup. Coup d'etat. That sounds crazy. Does it? Does that sound crazy?
No.
Of course not. To you, you produce the show. You get to see everything in advance.
That's right.
There are some people out there who still think I'm making this up. So I was sent this article this weekend by no less than probably 2,000 people. This thing must have went viral by a guy I've seen on Fox. I'm a contributor of that. I've seen him I've seen him on TV. I watch the network too. It was in the American Mind, and the piece is called "The Coming Coup." I did not plan this. Michael Anton wrote it. Listen, folks, this is in the show notes. If there was ever a time to read the show notes, it's today. Bongino.com/newsletter. Subscribe to my show notes. It's free. I'll email you this stuff every day. I don't even got to hunt for it. Read this. Read this and send it to your friends. What's the premise of the article? Bottom line up front. The premise of the article is this. There is a conspiracy going on right now to basically overturn or overthrow the results of the 2020 election. If Joe Biden wins, Joe, don't worry, everything will be okay. None of this will happen, of course. Yeah. If Trump wins, no matter how big the win is, he could win 49.5 out of 50 states using Joe Biden math. They're not even hiding the fact. Actually, it wouldn't be Joe Biden because some states, Nebraska and Maine, actually split up their electoral votes, right? So they're not even hiding this. And as the author writes, which is a great, great premise, what are the two rules of conspiracies? I'll get to this stuff in a second. Number one, never talk about the conspiracy. Remember Fight Club? What's the first rule of Fight Club? Never talk about Fight Club. What's the second rule? That the best way to hide the conspiracy, the coup conspiracy, is to pretend it's not a conspiracy at all and that Trump's doing it. Oh, you're going to love this show? Oh. Stay tuned. Let's go to screenshot number 1 from Michael Anton's terrific piece about the coming coup. This is a long one, about a paragraph long. But ladies and gentlemen, this is worth your time. They're talking about the ravings of Joe Biden and about not respecting the election results and things like that. And it says right here, this is an important one. They're openly advertising what they're going to do if they're going to lose. So, quote from the piece, one might dismiss such comments as the ravings of a dementia patient and a has-been who never got over his own electoral loss. Talking about Biden, obviously. But before you do, consider this. Over the summer, a story was deliberately leaked to the press of a meeting at which 100 Democrat grandees, anti-Trump former Republicans, and other ruling class apparatchiks got together on George Soros's dime to game out various outcomes of the 2020 election. One such outcome was a clear Trump win. In that eventuality, former Bill Clinton White House Chief of Staff John Podesta, playing Biden, refused to concede, pressuring states that Trump won to send Democrats to the formal Electoral College vote and trusted that the military would take care of the rest. We've already discussed this report they're referencing in the Michael Anton piece, the Transition Integrity Project. If you haven't seen this report, look it up. I've got a lot more on this ahead. The lady running it, shocker, Joe, has a long affiliation with George Soros, liberal money guy, loves to give money. I know you're stunned by this.
I am
Rosa
stunned.
Brooks, I know you're shy. Hold your astonishment. Contain it like a beach ball underwater. They're openly talking about states Trump wins just sending Democrat electors to the House of Representatives anyway. In other words, we don't respect the popular vote within our state, and we're just going to send our people to elect Biden anyway, and we're going to let, quote, the military take care of the rest, according to the piece. Folks, they're not hiding this. This is extremely dangerous. I cannot warn you in more dire or stronger terms right now. Be ready for a solid month of total chaos after the election. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm simply repeating to you what the Democrats are already telling us. Remember that famous Dennis Green meltdown, the old coach of the Arizona Cardinals, the football team, when they played the Bears and they lost? And the guy asks a stupid question and Dennis Green melts down and says, "They are who we thought they were. They are." Remember that? Look it up. It's hysterical. The Democrats are who we think they are. Anti-free speech, anti-free elections, tyrant socialists who are getting ready for a coup like you've never seen before. Oh, damn, that sounds crazy. The media would stop that, would they? Because they're feeding right into it. Remember this gem from the Washington Post last week? This tweet? Remember this little doozy? I got to tell you, I'm a little nervous about the show. Nice. Washington Post. Perspective. The election will likely spark violence and a constitutional crisis. It will? Oh, hold on, Joe. There's a caveat. In every scenario except the Biden landslide, where our simulation ends catastrophically, in every other scenario, except if Biden wins. So you think, no, the media will surely stop this oncoming coup that they're already planning. We're just going to send Democrats to the Electoral College and let the military take care of the rest. This is in a document they leaked to the media. You think the media in a fair, free society would be like, this is insanity, and humiliate Joe, right? Humiliate this group for even suggesting a coup? No. The Washington Post is celebrating it. Bring it, kids. Bring it. We're going to tweet it out, write an article about it. Again, tell me again. Dan Bongino, I'm just listening to your own people. We're going to let the military take care of it. We're going to send Democrats, even if Trump wins the state, to the Electoral College, the Washington Post. Every scenario, other than a Biden win, ends in catastrophe. It's not a Washington Post piece about, hey, this is really dangerous, discussing a coup openly like this. This group should be outed and humiliated. No, that's not the piece. That's not the piece. Oh, this little gem gets worse, this coming coup piece. This is a good one. Let's go to screenshot number 2. Keep in mind the golden rules of the conspiracy. Never talk about the conspiracy. Rule 1. Rule 2, make the conspiracy look like it's been brought on by your opponents, not by you. First rule of Fight Club, don't talk about Fight Club. Second rule of Fight Club, never ever talk about Fight Club. Screenshot number 2 from the American Mind, the coming coup piece. So good. So good. They're talking about the Transition Integrity Project report here in this quote here. Read it. up and down and sideways. It is a battle plan for the coup. Quote, again, talking about the tip report. The leaked report from the exercise darkly concluded that the, quote, technocratic solutions, courts, and reliance on elites observing norms are not the answer here, end quote. Promising that what would follow the November election would be, quote, a street fight, not a legal battle. Joe, we have only brought this street fight line up 10 or 20 times now. Folks, I know sometimes I will hammer a story to death. I only do it when I think it is of grave importance to you, because I'm telling you, there are still people unprepared for the election, November 3rd. I mean, right around the corner. There are still people unprepared who really believe if Trump wins, that the Democrats are just going to be like, we'll live to fight on in another election. That's not going to happen. You need to be prepared right now. They are preparing for their words, not mine. A street fight, not a legal one. What would that mean? What does a street fight, not a legal one, mean? Do I have to go back to Dennis Green? They are who we thought they were. They're telling you, they're advertising right now what they're going to do. The Washington Post, it's going to be a cataclysm in the streets. This Transition Integrity Project with these Democrat think tankers, it's going to be a street fight, folks. Notice how they say a street fight, because you may say, fairly enough, if you're one of these people who really thinks this is some joke, and, Bongino, he's losing his mind, this is hyperbolic. If you really, by the way, shame on you right now for doing that, given what the Democrats have put us through over the last year in the streets. If you say to yourself, street fight, that terminology is used it is. They're very clear, Joe. A street fight, not a legal one. In case you're thinking like, we just mean street fight, in the way people just kind of throw that term around. Courtroom, man, was a street fight in there. That's not what they eliminate that. It's a street fight, not a legal one. Matter of fact, they leave out all the other stuff too. Don't worry about the courts. Don't worry about the media. We're going to the streets. Oh, they've gone to the streets. If you're a resident of a liberal city that's had your business burned down, you know exactly what they're talking about. Exactly what they're talking about. Now, of course, the liberals who watch this show say, oh my gosh, you brought up George Soros. You can't do that. You're not allowed to do that. Well, I give you the double barrel middle finger because I do whatever I want, whenever I want, and I don't give a damn what you say. And whenever you tell me not to talk about stuff, I talk about it again, even more, just to piss you off. How does that sound? You like them apples? I don't care. There's nothing you can do to me ever. Nothing. My audience is bigger than you. My audience is more loyal than the idiots that follow your sites. We will talk about Soros whenever we damn well please, and his network of people. Why does that matter? Because, ladies and gentlemen, the report from the Transition Integrity Project saying this is going to be a street fight, whose conclusions have been echoed by the Washington Post, that again is not being openly trashed in the media as recommending a coup, but is being celebrated, this report. There's someone behind this report that has some really interesting connections. So before I get to screenshot number 3 in the coming coup, I want to go to another article that talks about the Transition Integrity Project. That is another must read in the show notes today. Revolver, September 4th, 2020. Transition Integrity Project. Is this Soros-linked group plotting a color revolution against President Trump? What? A color revolution? With the orange revolution, the green revolution, isn't that the kind of stuff that our intelligence operatives and our military use overseas to destabilize unfriendly regimes? Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm. Joe, a color revolution against Trump. Are we allowed to do that here? Intel, military people? Military. Oh my gosh, Dan, now you're really talking conspiracy theories. I am. Don't worry, I've got receipts later. Former military people using the exact same tactics to destabilize other countries right here. Surely that's illegal. Not only is it not illegal, it's celebrated by the Washington Post and others. Weird. Let's look at this Revolver piece about who's behind this Transition Integrity Project report recommending a street fight, again, being celebrated by people out there who don't want an election. They want a, quote, street fight. Screenshot number 1 from this Revolver piece. Please Please read it in the show notes today. So what is the Transition Integrity Project? And what does it have to do with the color revolution against Trump? Here's how friendly media outlets represent the Transition Integrity Project and its agenda. Quote, this is from Newsweek, leftist radicals. A bipartisan group of about 80 political operatives and academics has been involved in discussions about what could happen if President Trump were to lose the November election and then contest the results, potentially refusing to leave the White House. The Boston Globe reported on Sunday that the group of Democrats and Republicans, all of whom oppose the president, convened an online meeting to hash out scenarios as part of what has been called the Transition Integrity Project in June. Okay, this is fascinating how Newsweek frames this Transition Integrity Project, preparing us all, Joe, for a street fight. They frame it, number one, Joe, it's bipartisan. It's bipartisan. There's always some Republican lunatic they pull out of the weeds from like the Lenin Project, also known as the Lincoln Project. This guy's they don't believe in anything actually Republican. Probably Jennifer Rubin from the Washington Post, who advocates all day for liberal issues, but she's an alleged conservative. Seems kind of weird, doesn't it? It's definitely a bipartisan group, number one. And notice how they frame it that, no, when Trump loses, we're just worried about him not leaving the White House. So if you're reading this again, remember the conspiracy. The first goal of the conspiracy is never talk about the conspiracy. So it's not a conspiracy to remove Trump from the White House if he wins. It's a conspiracy it's a non-conspiracy just to get Trump out if he loses and doesn't want to leave. That's not let me be crystal clear. That's not what this is about. Follow me, Joe. If Trump loses legitimately, trust me, he's going to leave the White House. 100%. That's not what this is. You don't need a Transition Integrity Project for that. This is only the Transition Integrity Project, a partisan. It's not bipartisan. The people, the Republicans involved, are not real Republicans. This is a partisan project to soften up the public for the coup coming if Trump wins. But notice again, they hide the conspiracy by blaming it on Trump. No, we're only here if he loses. If he loses, to get him out. That's what we're here for. Never talk about the conspiracy, number one. Number two, always blame it on Donald Trump. Genius. Malignant malfeasance. Genius.
Come here.
I was going to bring...
So we've been fighting right now in this time in our country. We're doing this whole Black Lives Matter. Everyone's fighting, everyone's looting. This is my father. I was born in foster care. I didn't have a mother or a father. They gave me away. My father wasn't fit to be my father. This is my dad here, Jacob Benny. He's been there since the beginning. He's done everything. He laid his life down for me, and I lay his life down for him. I don't judge any man on the color of their skin, but the content of their character. We're here. We love. It doesn't matter what color of us. It's all about love. You can't beat hate with hate. You beat hate with love. So everyone out there, please stop fighting. Please come together. We can't beat it that way.
You really like him, don't you? Yeah.
Let's just skip. This girl's a genius. I'm counting on you to keep these guys focused. Now, I don't want to hear anything about girls and parties.
Would you like to stay?
I think that I should.
Even if it's just for a moment.
Oh, God.
Where do I go from here?
I really messed up. No matter what decision Emma makes, your life will have been affected. You might have to forego playing college football.
Don't let him tell you what to do. This is your decision.
Maybe we should think about getting married?
There is another choice.
It's a baby, Em.
And you said you would support me.
I do support you, but I can't condone murder.
Don't you tell me what I can and can't do with my body.
How important is the life of your child?
Let's do this, Mr. Forsett.
I'm here to serve you and your daughter a court notice.
What business is my daughter's life to you?
This riveting case seizes the national spotlight, involving a young man's pursuit to prevent his girlfriend from aborting their child.
Did you do this to create media attention? Look outside, Mr. Carpenter. Isn't this exactly what you were hoping for, your 15 minutes of fame?
We actually have a kid who wants to be a dad and not a deadbeat. But first, he needs a court to recognize that the child has a right to live.
Is Miss Stein's baby viable right now?
No, not at this stage.
Thank you. No more questions, Your Honor.
Do you believe that the pro-life issue has become the civil rights issue of the day?
A woman has a right to choose what she does with her body. The baby's not her body.
I'd like to ask you if the fetus can feel pain. Yes, absolutely. When does human life begin?
Is that what this is about? I thought the message was that I have the right to choose.
Emma, do you want to keep this pregnancy or not?